you, Chair. So it is true that cars are getting bigger, and that does actually create some problems. I think particularly on narrow roads, we have parking as well as vehicles getting by and side parking. I think there is a potential for a thoughtful debate about that, but this motion is not that. This motion is a Trojan horse for Labour and the Greens' not-so-secret plan to price people off the roads. The first clue, we've just heard from Assemblymember Hall, the motion makes a great deal about the problem of weight of vehicles. The heaviest vehicle of any given type would be an electric vehicle. For a similar sized vehicle, they are much heavier than petrol. Somehow, mysteriously, in this motion, that isn't mentioned. The real agenda here, I think, is a pretext to price people out of their cars. Now, I will say, in defence of the Greens, they are at least completely honest about that, but let's think about where Labour are. So, the Mayor's manifesto recommits him, in fact, to his net zero 2030 target, which is 20 years quicker than Ed Miliband. And in public, the Mayor has said that he is against pay per mile, but his own report states very clearly two things. Number one, his report on achieving net zero. Number one, car use, to achieve his goal, car use would have to be reduced by 27% across London. And secondly, in order to achieve that, the Mayor's report says, there must be a pay-per-mile road user charge. And so support for the Mayor's net zero 2030 target locks in, according to his own report, support for a pay-per-mile. And so this motion is the continuation of demonising people who are using their car to get around, including many of the people I represent in Croydon and Sutton. Keep finding new ways to tax people, to charge people, including some not very well-off people who use their cars. As I say, the Greens are at least honest about the fact that that's what they want to achieve. They want to do more than 27%, I'm sure. I think it would be nice, it would be refreshing for Labour to at least be honest about what their real agenda is. Thank you, Chair.
Assemblymember Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief this time because Assemblymember Hall has already said much of what I wanted to say and said it in a very passionate and robust way. So I'll try and be brief. But I must say that I know I've only been here just over a year, and in that time I've seen some utter nonsense being discussed here. But I think this has to be definitely in the top five. So as if the left's war on the motorist, relentless war on the motorist, wasn't bad enough already with ULEZ, 20 miles an hour, the tunnel charges, LTNs, the congestion charge increase, which we all voted against when the Greens proposed it in the budget. But now we have this motion, which takes that war on London's drivers directly to becoming a war on London's families, who need cars of this size because they have children, they have stuff that needs to be transported, and in some cases, like me, we have dogs that need to fit in the back of the car as well. So I'll declare an interest. I drive a Subaru Forester XT, at least that's one of the cars I drive, which you would categorise as being an SUV, and you'd probably regard it as being a gas guzzler, notwithstanding the fact that emissions-wise, it's probably the cleanest car I've ever owned. It weighs 1,000... My other car's an Impreza, that's much more of a gas guzzler, so that's fine. It weighs about 1,455 kilograms before I get in it. By contrast, the top four most popular electric vehicles sold in this country are all significantly heavier. Tesla Model Y, 1,995 kilograms. Tesla Model 3, 1,630. MG4 EV, between 1,655 and 1,685 kilograms. Nissan Ariya, about 2,000 kilograms. So all of those much heavier. If you want to tax electric vehicles off the road, be my guest. But be careful what you wish for. This motion is nonsense. Definitely voting against. So guys, back with you again for this one.
Assemblymember Best.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start with the frankly bizarre notion that the State of London's backlog repairs of £1.9 billion is the fault of London's families for driving their vehicles and has nothing to do with the Mayor of London for cancelling all proactive road repairs in 2018-19 and 2019-20 and at various other points as well. In fact, it was a Labour Assembly member that in January 2019 asked Sadiq Khan, "You are planning to continue the policy of significantly reducing the programme of proactive road maintenance, which will lead to a significant drop in the state of good repair for both carriageway and footways. Is this policy sustainable long term?" The Mayor replied that TfL has estimated this approach will likely cause the state of good repair for carriageway and footways to slightly reduce around 2 points, from 92 to 90. Well, he was slightly off because it's now at 88%, a massive drop from his predecessor, who managed to raise the state of good repair by 3%. That's also the same when you look at bridges. He inherited from his predecessor state of good repair at 81%, and that again has dropped. So after he got that up from 79%. I think, as it's been said already, though, truly this is just a tax on families who Labour in London want to hit again and again and again. As someone that has 3 children with 2 requiring car seats, I would much rather have a smaller vehicle. I would like a break from mum's taxi, but it is the reality of family life. And I think many of you forget that in outer London, families must use vehicles. The public network is not that of inner and central London. And now for the crime of having a larger family, which, by the way, is not cheap in itself in London. Labour and the Greens want you to pay more to park and more to tax your vehicle. It's an attack on motorists. Fundamentally, it's an attack on families. And also, it's a bizarre get-out for the fact that the Mayor has cancelled proactive road maintenance continually throughout his term. Thank you.
Assembly Member Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Whenever anything is raised about car ownership in the capital, we always hear about the war on motorists. And it's terribly reductive. It doesn't get us anywhere. And there is no war on motorists. There is. I'm afraid there genuinely isn't. And if there is a war on motorists, then there seems to be only one side, which is driving around in tanks. And that's the motorists.
That's the army.
But trying to make change, trying to make the roads better, trying to make the roads better for everybody, including motorists, is not a bad ambition, actually. I remember in Richmond one terms, again, I'm going to talk about what you know. Years ago, we had a form of emission-based parking charges. That was about 20 years ago. And we were howled down, absolutely howled down. In fact, the Lib Dems lost control of the council because of it. 2006, I think. And now, emissions-based parking is the norm. It is absolutely the norm, however it was decried as being whatever the equivalent of woke was back 15 or 20 years ago. So just trying to find alternative ways of making sure that the roads are safe for everybody, making sure that people can move around the capital as freely as possible. I appreciate that there are restrictions. Is not necessarily a bad thing. But just automatically having a knee-jerk reaction, say, oh, this is the war on the motorist, is terribly unhelpful. And really, as an assembly, we should be trying to find ways of making people's lives better and not necessarily reaching for the Daily Mail dog whistle descriptors, which we have heard today. Thank you.
Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't actually planning to speak on this motion, but I was taken by Assemblymember Baker saying that this was an anti-pothole motion, because this left me a bit confused by her newfound support of filling potholes. Because when we moved a budget amendment to plug the Mayor's budget gaps in repairing potholes, they voted against it. Because the truth is, what is causing the worsening state of London's roads is the fact that during this mayoralty, Sadiq Khan has cut £20 million, over 90% of the budget, from the money he gives councils to repair the principal road network. To people who don't live and breathe politics, those are the roads used by buses. Because out in Bromley, we have the new all-electric 358 bus. And when it isn't breaking down or ploughing into councillors' wives' cars, it is a heavier, as my colleagues have said, it's a heavier form of vehicle. But with this new vehicle, breaking our roads, being heavier, how much money this year has the Mayor given Bromley for the principal road network that it uses? Zero. How much did he give the council last year? Zero. How much did he give the council the year before? Zero. The point goes here that, again, he is only giving a handful of councils money to repair the principal road network. It is absolutely ludicrous to say that it is families that are ruining our roads. What is ruining our roads is the Mayor not paying his own bill.
Assembly Member Georgiou.
Thank you. I'm only wanted to speak on this just so I could use the phrase This motion is just nothing but middle-class wokery from the left-wing parties. As we've already heard, As we've already heard, I'm not going to outline it. I think Assembly Member Best, hit on the point of childcare. Crucial bigger cars, the disabled, and most importantly, the white van man that needs to get around to fix the luxury homes of the Camden socialists that need them when they come. This is an Islington Labour motion from what is now an Islington Labour Party. That's all you've got left. As we've heard, if it hadn't been for this Conservative group and Assembly Member Hall's exceptional mayoral campaign, we would have had pay per mile, which you all would have been happy to go along with. We've had the congestion charge increase, the ULEZ expansion, the lefty LTNs, and the Blackwall Tunnel charges. I would say this, Mr. Chairman, which hasn't been remarked on. I was in. When was it, Neil? Yesterday. I was in Westminster with Assembly Member Garrett yesterday, and who drove by twice? There were some very fancy ministerial cars, and guess what? They were all big Range Rovers. And without giving away, and rightly so, the Mayor has his security detail, I'd ask you all, what do they drive? So the point I would make is be careful what you wish for. But just so I can use it one more time, this is nothing but middle-class wokery. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Assembly Member Sean Bailey.
After my colleagues again, I've told you once before, if you think you're going to beat me over the head and act like it's some dirty secret of mine, you're wrong. You know why I stand on green belt. I said it before and I say it again. So please, relax. Secondly, after my colleague's thumping speech, I just want to bring us down to look at a few facts. The green credentials of this motion are ridiculous, because London is full of the cars it has now, and if you force those cars off the street, you do two particular things. Firstly, the embodied carbon. You'll get rid of carbon that we've already dealt with, and you'll bring in new carbon. And by the way, they're likely to be electric cars, which are very expensive to produce, very expensive to buy. We don't know what we're going to do with the poor chemicals when the batteries are done either. So the idea that this is some kind of green policy is madness, and the Greens should know better, because we rely on you for this kind of information. You seem to have forgotten that. My colleague, Assemblymember Best, talked about this, an attack on the families. To be clear, you will all know this, to raise a family in London is hugely expensive. To raise a large family, even more so. One of the key expenses is transport, and it often manifests itself in a car. If you live outside of zone 3, maybe, you have to drive your children around, or your children have a poor quality of life. It is that simple. So this is an attack on those people who've decided to produce children to pay your pension into the future. We need our young people to succeed. We need our families to succeed as well. The other piece as well, we have often talked about we want to make traffic better in London, and we all have different ways of doing that. But if you drive large cars off the road, you run the risk of families then getting another car, an extra car, and upping the level of traffic on road, because ultimately a large car takes up space, we can agree on that, but not as much as two cars. And you run the risk of people doing that. So again, be careful what you wish for and come back with a better motion. I would love to support a motion that made it cheaper to move your family around London, that made congestion much less of an issue in London, but this is not it. It ignores the weight of electric cars. It ignores what this will do to families' finances, which is the single most important thing in London. We've got to support poorer families.
Thank you, Member. Right. I've not seen anyone else who wishes to come. Oh, so you did. So you are the last contribution then, before we go to summing up.
Thank you. I'm really struggling to understand exactly what motion we've been debating. The second paragraph talks about cars characterised by higher bonnets. Heavier cars put those in smaller cars, pedestrians and cyclists, and particularly children, at increased risk of death or serious injury in the event of a collision. That's what this motion is about. Now, If you are hit by a car above your centre of gravity, you go under the car drives over you, you are very likely to be killed or catastrophically injured. If you are hit below your centre of gravity by a car, you are likely to be thrown up onto the bonnet or cast aside. You are much less likely to be as seriously injured and less likely to be killed. So this motion is about reducing the number of people who are killed and seriously injured on the roads. It is a motion that takes account of the way that cars are changing shape. So yes, they're causing problems with too many, making it difficult to park, making it difficult for cars to pass each other on a street where there are parked cars, because all the cars are getting at least a centimetre wider every year, the different car productions. So this is about making sure that we address this issue, that the car companies are selling us cars that are far more dangerous. We have a problem with not meeting our Vision Zero targets. The Mayor is desperate for ways to reduce the seriousness of the collisions on our roads. And so we absolutely need to be using every single tool at our disposal to try and reduce this danger by encouraging people through things like parking charges and VED based on the weight of your vehicle. So the bigger cars that cause more danger are the ones that pay that much more, and therefore people will buy. Old-fashioned estate cars have lower bonnets. Those can move lots of people around and they are not so dangerous.
Thank you very much. You're right to sum up.
Thanks, Chair. And I'd like to really thank Assemblymember Russell for actually addressing the road safety aspects of this motion, which no one else in the many, many speakers had done so. I have to say, Chair, it's a bit tough for me to sum up the speeches because most of them bore only a minimal relation to the emotion that was actually brought. But I have to say, this afternoon has made me reflect really on the state of political debate. I have to say, no, I do, and I wonder who Assembly members think they are representing. I wonder who Assembly members think they are representing, and who is listening, and who is listening, and who is listening, or whether you're actually just here to listen to yourselves. And it's back to you, Chair.
OK, let's move to the vote. Those in favour of the motion, please show.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in favour, Chair. And those against?
Yes, thank you.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, can I start again? Apologies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 votes against, Chair.
OK, that concludes motions, as I see you're really upset by all that. Let's move on then to mayoral commitments. We're asked to note the commitments made by the Mayor of London during the London Assembly Mayor's Question Time meeting held between February and April 25, as set out in Appendix 1. Can we agree the recommendations? OK, item 9, Pay Award 2025/26 for the GLA statutory officers. The Assembly has recommended to confirm that the pay award of 2.5% should be made to the GLA 3 statutory officers, the Head of Paid Service, the Chief Finance Officer, the Monitoring Officer, noting that this is a joint decision with the Mayor. Can we agree? OK, item 10, future meetings of the Assembly. It's proposed that the London Assembly agrees to use the plenary meeting to be held at 10 a.m. on the 3rd of July, principally to hold question and answer session on the work and policies of TfL under Section 61 of the Greater London Authority Act 1999. It requires Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, in his capacity as Chair of TfL, and Andy Lord, Commissioner of TfL, to attend from 10 a.m. to answer questions for which notice will be given in due course in accordance with Section 62 of the Greater London Authority Act 1999. Can we agree? Agreed. Item 11, date of the next meeting. The next meeting of the London Assembly is scheduled to be Mayor's Question Time meeting, which will take place at 10 a.m. on Thursday the 19th, 2025 in the Chamber at City Hall. Item 12, any other business that I consider? There is none. The meeting is now at an end. Thank you.
Thank you very
much. Response, but this was a patrol, and she said it's not months, it's years. Now, we are busy in our town centre and we're constantly going around in different times. We never see police officers. If the town centre team is a visibility issue as much as a response issue, then we should be seeing it. So I would urge you to use the rotation policy to also talk about the obstruction, and thank you for giving me that information, but we can't go on like this, because I don't think it's the adverse impact. I know that the demands are there, but there must be a fairer way for obstructions. We can't keep relying on the same type of people in terms of policing London's demonstrations at weekends, but it's only for the weekend. What else is happening during the week? This cohort should have been one of the first to be considered for any training that you were undertaking. That must now finish. These people are not just joining those issues, so why are we not seeing them at other times visibly in our areas and in neighbourhoods and town centres?
Assemblyman Duval, I mean, your town centre definitely was one of the town centres that was listed in the Tier 1. I'm deeply concerned about what you're saying in terms of that, because obviously we've put in significant investment and, you know, worked with the Met on an evidence base around the hotspot areas. Those town centres were identified based on data. So I will go back and understand how many patrols and exactly, because we've got the information through the summer returns on all of the summer initiatives. So I'll go back and see what was returned from that area, because it's very important. I mean, I want to state again that we really want to make sure that we've put in £32 additional million into tackling high volume crime, because we know how much it matters, and visibility does matter in terms of community confidence. So we need to make sure that we're doing that right.
Just very, very briefly on that. How are we managing the effect on the officers? Because some of them have dedicated their entire career into getting a specialism and being noted as a specialist in an area. And then they might be required to leave those roles and return to borough policing. I mean, morale in the police at the moment is very, very bad, as you know. If they're being asked to give up something they've dedicated most of their career into perfecting, how are they going to feel about going? How are you going to manage that? Because I'd be mad. I can imagine some of them would be.
I mean, the Commissioner spoke about this yesterday. His thinking is twofold. First of all, for too long, neighbourhood policing has been seen as, for lack of a better term, a stepchild, unwanted, unprofessional, unstandardised part of policing, and that can't continue because we all know how important it is. However, those specialisms, and I think that this is something that we need to make sure is the case, is that those specialisms are seen as additional expertise to those neighbourhood teams. And Louise Puddyford, the DAC in charge of this, talked about this yesterday, about how those specialisms can invest in the importance of investigating and bringing about justice in those neighbourhood teams. But obviously that needs to make sure that that is happening. The Commissioner himself noted that there has been, some people are excited about it, some officers have said they've picked up skills from the rotation that, and you know, welcomed being back in the front line and being able to connect with communities again, and some have noted, have expressed frustration about being moved.
Yeah, I know they have, and we're having a real problem in recruitment at the moment, so I would think doing something like this need not necessarily be a good idea. Assembly Member Harani, was it about this specific, or did you come... Yeah, OK, if you keep it to this...
Yeah, and I'm happy for the response to be given in writing for the interest of time, but just something I did want to raise. I didn't have any Tier 1 town centre areas in my constituency, but I had 2 Tier 2s, and the feedback that I have sort of from police officers is probably no different to what they would have been doing already in those very busy town centres anyway. So any information you can provide us on the success of those in Tier 2 and the impact of those would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, I agree with that. Assemblyman...
Just on that point, I think... yes, and you know, as a previous local authority leader, I know that most boroughs organise particularly around summertime and busyness, and I think what the Home Office tasked us to do through the Summer Preparedness Initiative was to have a more coordinated response across the boroughs, have that additionality of focus in the Tier 1 things, but also about having the opportunity to test and coordinate with local authorities. I'm sure Kenny can write back in writing on the particulars of that, but I wanted to explain that this was part of a wider set of matrix that the Home Office asked us to do around summer preparedness and convening partners and sharing information across the partnership on what was working and what's not. And that's important because of evaluations on how we can go forward, especially into the winter preparedness plan.
Thank you. I think that if we could have that in writing, it would be really useful. Thank you very much. Assembly Member Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Mayor, how has MOPAC supported the Met in ensuring local crime fighting priorities are influenced by communities? And what more does it plan to do?
Yes, the Mayor and myself fully are committed to rebuilding neighbourhood policing, and we welcome the Met's commitment in planning for local crime fighting priorities that directly influenced by local communities themselves through neighbourhood patrols and engagement and with local authorities and digital channels. We know that communities in London continue to feel concerned about neighbourhood crime and ASB, particularly around shoplifting, theft, which is why we've worked closely with the MPS and the government and local authorities on the Summer Streets initiative that I've just previously mentioned. We continue to support the Met's modernisation of its communication with Londoners, with City Hall, through our funding of Met Engage, which is the Met's new community engagement platform. To engage with their local teams. This is an important tool in facilitating better conversations between local residents and the Met on policing priorities, as well as we're working with the Met on the community scrutiny and transparency panels to make sure that we're also hearing the diverse views of Londoners.
Thank you. We've raised this before in previous meetings, and indeed at Mayor's Question Time just last week. Communities across London are concerned that they will be losing their police front counters. Thousands of people have signed petitions. Thousands have written to Assembly members, both constituency and those who are London-wide members. We heard from the Mayor last week that he knew about plans to close police front counters as far away as last year, that he knew that was a possibility. Whereas when we've spoken to you on this particular issue, you've seemed to think that this was a relatively recent development, that the most that was being discussed was reduction of hours, not closures. So did the Mayor and the Commissioner fail to share with you the fact that they were considering closures of police front counters as recently, not as recently, as far away as November and December of last year?
You'll know, as I did, as we all did, that front counters was included in the list on tough choices, yes, in the work that the Metropolitan Police have been doing to prioritise in line with their budget. That talked about a reduction of hours.
Indeed.
I think the work that the Met has been doing on all of the tough choices is to take that from concept to implementation, as you know well through the work on royal parks and understanding the implementation mitigations that have gone through that. On front counters, I think that Matt Twist came to the committee in August and set out how the work that they've been doing has been data-led and also has considerations around volumes and geographic spread. And because of that, it was felt that some front counters needed to be remaining 24 hours. Some would be, based on that data, reduced in hours, the proposal is, and some are to close. I think it's important that, and I know committee members heard this in August, I know you weren't available, but that the data they're using is on footfall and demand, partly of that, and therefore, based on geographic spread, the ones that are closing mostly have the lowest demand in footfall.
I'm familiar with the rationale. The question is that last week we heard the Mayor saying that he knew that there was a potential for closure, not for reduced hours, closure, in November or December of last year. My question to you is, was that advice on closure, not reduction of hours, closure shared with you at the time, or were you, as the rest of us, kept in the dark?
I mean, all of the tough choices have been discussed at several meetings as we work through how we align the budget and work up the proposals in the implementation plan.
Perhaps I can narrow down the question. When did you first hear the word closure in relation to police front counters? Was it in November and December of last year, or was it, as with the rest of us, July of this year?
In November, December last year, there were some discussions around, given the strength of need in terms of the budget, what would be red lines, and closures were discussed then. However, the proposals around the exact ones, I saw that in July.
OK, so you knew as well that last November and December that closure was an option, but didn't bring this to the attention of this committee?
Because at that stage, nothing was agreed. It was very high-level conversations about what was to be tested.
Yeah, the first that we heard, we knew that the tough choices included reduction of hours. That was in our papers. We didn't hear about closure of front counters until much later. So you knew in meetings behind closed doors that closure was an option, but in public said nothing?
An option, but I had no specifics on that at all until July.
That's fair enough. In the response that the Mayor said, the reason why he's changed his opinion, and I apologise, Chair, for going on slyly, the reason is that he said, when the facts change, I change my mind. Now, we know that the Met Police budget was hugely in deficit last year when the Mayor made his manifesto commitment. We also know that we haven't seen a massive drop-off in people using police front counters. Usage was still low at the time when the Mayor made his manifesto commitment. So the question I have, and I should possibly be asking the Mayor this evening at People's Question Time, which facts have changed to make him change his mind?
I mean, the data that the Metropolitan Police, obviously these are operational decisions that the Metropolitan Police have to take in line with what they feel is best in terms of delivering the priorities.
Has that data changed since when the Mayor wrote his manifesto last year? And people went to the polls based on that manifesto? Has the facts and data changed?
I wouldn't know, obviously I wasn't imposed at that point, I wouldn't know the specifics around the actual data around, for example, call handling rates, demand at front counters, how many people are now reporting online. I visited Crime Stoppers recently. They've seen a huge increase in reporting through their channels. So I don't have that comparative data to hand.
Perhaps we could get that comparative data in writing Chair.
Well, I think so, and I think some of these answers you've obtained are aware of how unhappy the public are, even if you and the Mayor are not. They don't want their front counters gone for a saving of something like 7 million for 17 of them. They don't want that. So we know what the public want. It's a damn shame that both the police won't come and you put everything down to operational. Yes, that would be very helpful, and thank you for bringing it up. I've seen Assembly Member Best.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you suggested then to Assembly Member Roberts you now know what the footfall is at police stations, which is music to my ear because you know that I've been asking you. I have asked Assistant Commissioner Twist, I've asked the Mayor. You've all promised to write to me and nobody has yet over the last 6 weeks told me what the footfall is. So please can you tell me the footfall at Chingford Station?
I mean, I don't have that information.
You just told Assembly Member Roberts you had it.
Sorry.
You just said we've mapped out the footfall.
I'm happy to answer the question in that, and I know that this is a question you put directly to Matt Twist in the committee, and I think I should be very clear on this, that the data they collect is on things that are reported at front counters, as Matt Twist told you in the meeting, not the wider information that I think you want on
You just
footfall.
told Assembly Member Roberts that you mapped out the footfall. So did you just tell a mistruth to Assembly Member Roberts?
I did not mean to mislead the committee. This is why I'm clarifying, based on what Matt Twist told you. My understanding, and I could be wrong, Kenny, if you know, but they don't count how many people come in and out of the station. They count how many crimes reported.
Good, thank you, Kenny. But Deputy Mayor, to stick with you, can you confirm you have no idea how many people visit police stations?
I can confirm, as Matt Twist did to you directly, that the Metropolitan Police have based their data around this on how many crimes are reported at front counters. I want to
That's
also...
not the question, Madam Mayor. Can you confirm... should we try again? Can you confirm that you have no idea how many people visit police stations?
I can confirm, as Matt Twist told you...
No, I'm asking you to confirm that question, not a different question. This is how it works. So I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you to confirm the question I'm asking you, not to ask yourself a different question. Can you confirm you have no idea how many people visit police stations?
I can confirm that that's
You're
not
asking
information...
yourself a different question. Can you answer mine?
I'm trying to answer your question.
You're not answering my question. Can you answer mine?
I can confirm that the Metropolitan Police don't record footfall at front counters.
Which would mean you have no idea how many people visit a police station.
I can confirm that the proposals on front counters were put together based on the information that the Metropolitan Police Service do record, and that is crimes
Would it not
reported
be
at front
important
counters.
to know how many people use a service before closing a service?
I understand, and I know that there are different uses of front counters, and that's why the Metropolitan Police are currently engaging, especially with people with protected characteristics, on the usage of front counters, so that that is properly equality impact. But I also think we must recognise that the major constraints of the budget means that these choices, all of them noted from the start as tough, are needed in order for the Metropolitan Police to have a balanced budget.
I understand that, but I think if you're making a difficult decision, one of the things you need is the facts about that decision. One of the biggest facts would be knowing the footfall. So given that you've known since November this is an option, why have you not been asking police stations to make a record of footfall in their stations so you can understand? Because as far as we know, the last data we have on this is from 2017. Reporting crime accounts for only a fifth of visits. You knew back in November you were considering this. It would seem pertinent at that point to go to the police stations and try and get some data on footfall, would it not?
I can reiterate that the police, in their work to take this to an operational proposal, have used the data that they have available to them, and that is on reported crime, and that 95% of that reported crime is now done online or on the telephone.
And have you looked into the type of crime? For example, if we're looking at rape, do you know how many rapes, the last time we got data on this, do you know how many rapes were reported at a front counter?
About 14.3.
Yes, correct, Kenny. Did the Mayor know that, or were you just trying to help her out? 14% of rapes.
I'm not the Mayor of London.
Sorry, the Deputy Mayor. Well, yeah, the Deputy Mayor, you're trying to help her out. 14% of rapes reported at a front counter. That is important. The type of crime reported at a front counter is important.
I agree with you, Assembly Member Best, which is why through the work that the Metropolitan Police are doing at the moment, working up the proposals, it is important that those things are looked at through the equalities impact assessment.
But it is getting to the point of misleading. You openly just said to Assembly Member Roberts, this is based on footfall. Last week, the Mayor of London said, I will write to you. Last month, you and the Assistant Commissioner said you would write to me. You are being misleading. You need to be open that you don't have that data. Now going on to the cost of the proposals. The other cost I would like to know is how much is being saved from the closure of Chingford Police Station.
I don't have that individual granular information in front of me. This wasn't a topic that I was asked to prepare for today. I can ask the Metropolitan Police to provide that.
I've already asked for that information, and I've been waiting for about 6 weeks.
I'm happy to look into that for you, Assembly Member.
It's hard to believe when you've gone to the extreme of closing these front counters, not even looking at reduction at. Not even looking at a reduction.
No decision to be made on
looking at not even looking at a reduction of hours. Not being clear about the savings in that. If I break it down per front counter, it would be £411,000 per counter. I've asked police officers in that station. I've asked inspectors. Does that make sense? They can't tell me how that figure would make sense. I need you to be able to tell me that figure and how that figure makes sense, and you can't.
I'm happy to chase the inquiry you've given to the Metropolitan Police.
Well, you were going to chase that on footfall, and here we are, 6 weeks later, admitting that you have no idea.
Right. Can we have, as a matter of urgency, the answers to the question that Assembly Member Best put? Because they are genuinely good questions that I would have thought that you would have the answer to. We need to know. You do not understand quite clearly just how upset Londoners are about having their front counters closed. We all know because we receive the emails all the time. They are very upset. I'm even more upset that you knew that it was a possibility in November, and as a politician didn't turn around and say that will upset absolutely everybody. We can't do that, especially, Mr. Mayor, since you promised you wouldn't do it in your manifesto. Anyway, I've got Assembly Member Duval and then I think Assembly Member Roberts. Very, very brief, both of you.
So rightly, people are asking questions about the finances. I just want to understand, because MOPAC is in charge of the policing budget. Yes, I'd say thank you for the nods. So if you're in charge of the policing budget, what steps have been taken to check and double check the figures that have been provided by the police of the savings of these front counter proposals have been given? So, if you could explain to us if that's happened and that exercise, and maybe you can add that to the list of writing back to us.
So I know that our CFO has had apologies, normally I'm told to be quieter and speak more quickly. So our CFO, I know she has had quite extensive consultations with the CFO and others across in the Metropolitan Police about all of this. Exactly on what scale, I'm afraid that is on the finance side, not directly on my side of stuff, so I would need to give you more details. But I know that we do look at this, we do check the deliverability, how sensible we think it is in terms of the scale of it, and we try and do look at the cumulative impact to assess whether actually what the Met is proposing on the whole is within, I suppose, because you've only got a certain amount of change capacity, don't you? So there's no point listing 1,000 things which are each going to deliver £1. If you can only deliver 500 things, you need to then scale it at a proper level, because sometimes it's the same resource to deliver £1 as it is to deliver 1,000,000. So that will have been gone through. The exact details of that, if you want, Assembly Member Duval, I'll need to get from the CFO and put that back in a letter to you.
Thank you.
Assembly Member Roberts.
Very quick one, Chair. Given that there's been a commitment to give Assembly Member Best the details of the cost savings relating to Chingford Police Station, I wonder if it might be possible to get a written answer detailing every police front counter which is closing. It's a pity that it won't be available for the Budget Committee this morning. Oh, sorry, tomorrow morning, I imagine. given that we're looking at how the Assembly is sorting out the Mayor's manifesto commitments, of which this is one which has now been broken.
Yes, another blurred line. So just to confirm, we would like a cost-saving analysis breakdown for every front counter that you are going to close. Can I have your commitment that we will get that and get it very quickly?
We can endeavour to ask the Met.
Timeline, please.
I mean, they've definitely got a breakdown on the reported crime, and they've already got that broken down by things.
As Assembly Member Best has pointed out, there's so much missing out of that. But the actual cost analysis would be good, and if we could have it, shall we say within 2 weeks?
Yeah, we can ask for that.
Yes, against every single station that's closing, because as a London-wide Assembly member, I'm getting requests. I'm going off straight from here to see somebody about another one closing. So that would be really useful. So you'll commit to within 2 weeks we will have that as a committee.
I mean, I'll commit to asking for it and making clear that that is your timescale, and I will let you know straight away, Chair, if there is any issue.
Yeah, it makes me nervous, you see, because poor Assembly Member Best has been promised twice and nothing has occurred. So maybe I'll phone you if we don't get it. How about that? Right, OK. Finally, we're going on to Assembly Lord Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. A new Met for London 2 states that the Met will implement a resolution centre. What does this involve, and what are the timescales for this, Deputy Mayor?
This is on their ongoing priority around improving call handling and call systems. You'll know that this is something that was noted in the first new Met for London needed improvement, and the Mayor has invested in to make sure that response times on 999 and 101 numbers are improved, and they are have been improving significantly. But I don't know, Kenny, if you want to comment.
Sorry, in the interest of time, I want to move on because I have 2 other questions I want to get to. With the decline in number of officers and the increase in demand, how is MOPAC ensuring that officers will not be unduly thrown under the bus when investigations fail due to capacity constraints?
So, the one, I don't think there's any suggestion that anybody would throw officers under the bus here. The way in which demand into the Met is being managed is through something called crime management units, which is, if you look at the Met, they screen in a higher proportion of crime than almost any other force in England and Wales. And this is about what the crime management units do is take in and make a realistic assessment of whether there are any realistic lines of inquiry which can be followed in this, and where there aren't, they try and reduce, they will screen that out, and that means that officers should have more manageable caseloads going on. Just to go back to the Resolution Centre, what that is about is bringing together, so you've heard of TDIU, which is a Telephone and Digital Investigatory Unit, and that's trying to bring that into METCC so that you join up the investigative capability with the contact capability so that you can resolve the sort of, I suppose, the non-urgent crimes, not wanting to use that term in a pejorative way, so that they can actually be resolved at first contact, which should give greater victim satisfaction, and again, to your point there, reduce demand on the officers.
One of the criteria for community crime fighting is ensuring the consistency high levels of service for those reporting rape. Serious sexual offences now have increased by 11.6%. Has there been a requisite rise in resources to deal with those cases?
There's been about 465 extra people put into the public protection teams, and if you look at the positive outcome rates in RASO cases, that's risen over the last few years from under 4% to just over 13%. So with a higher caseload, they are actually delivering an even higher percentage of positive outcomes in that case, which I think is a very positive thing and something which the Met should be really proud of.
Okay. Does the Met have the expertise and the resources to improve its response to online and financial crime? For instance, online grooming against children as well has increased by 89% as well. They're 2 separate questions, by the way. So I want to talk about financial crime, and also, Deputy Mayor, I want to talk about protecting young people online. Do we have the expertise to do that within the Met?
So I think on the OSSE cases, which is the online child sexual abuse and exploitation cases, the Met has made real strides in that. If you look at the things which get the referrals which are coming in from NECMEC, and you look at the capabilities that these people have, I do think that is something which has increased, and the Met are doing a much better job. If you look at what happened in terms of the previous issues for concern raised by HMICFRS on child criminal exploitation and child sexual exploitation, those issues would have gone across all of their child safeguarding and child investigatory things, and they have made significant strides in that regard, would be my first point. There still is a growing demand in that case, and the Met are going to have to think about how that's managed. I agree if that's the crux of the question. On the second question that you were asking about the capabilities of to do financial crime, especially online, that's a very, very difficult one for any force. My personal view on that is a national issue which requires national investment and requires a proper counter-fraud and investigation strategy and requires proper investment, and is something that the government should be looking at through their white paper in that regard.
In the interest of time, Deputy Mayor, I'm going to come to you on this. Almost half of all the offences were on Snapchat. I'm focusing particularly on young people here, where the communication was known. How is MOPAC working with social media companies to clamp down on online offending and help the Met to track and monitor these offenders? Because, you know, there is an arena in which this is happening. It's a very particular arena. What are we doing to make sure that the police have the resources and impetus to work in that arena with these companies?
Yeah, I think you make a really prudent point, Lord Bailey, and this is something that obviously our work in relation to the online harm bill, these are the points that we're making in terms of making sure that especially we work in tandem with the government in pushing social media companies of all sizes, including, similar to the ones you mentioned, especially using encrypted communications to have a higher safeguarding level and greater connection with investigations. So that's definitely...
is because I particularly focus on MOPAC here. Is MOPAC in those conversations? Of course, the government have to do what they have to do, but are you having those conversations? Are you asking for specific things for following trends we have here in London?
Yes.
And you're asking social media companies to look at that?
We've... sorry? Yes, yes, we are, and this is something that we're continuing to lobby both tech companies, but also government through its legislation to be stronger on.